Shields has joined the meeting.
Okay. Are we doing my announcement now? Was that the roll call?
No, it was not.
Not. Okay. We're going to do an official roll call now.
Is the meeting called to order?
So we open. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Rosalind Philippe, your chair. And I officially call the meeting to order at 2:06. And we can have a roll call.
Okay. Rosalind Philippe.
Here.
Michael McDermott.
Feedback is coming from.
Mike has the feedback. I think he's on his cell.
Mike, can you hear me?
Present.
Thank you. Dumana Joseph. I see that she's on, but I'll wait for her to confirm verbally. Evan Shields.
Here.
Michael Eaton.
Here.
Patricia Longchamp, Dale Sarin, sorry.
It's okay. I'm here.
We have a quorum.
We want to check Miss Joseph's microphone.
Yeah.
Lumana, if you're speaking, we're not able to hear you. Can you try,
Can you hear me? I'm calling via phone now.
I hear you now.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We'll move on with the Pledge of Allegiance. So, if we could quickly, Miss Joseph, can you lead us?
Yes, I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Now we've had the roll call, so we'll go to the announcement. Mr. Cook, or is that Modestine?
Only thing I would like to say, if I could, is to say that now we have Marlene working with us as the board's secretary, and we have a new colleague with us, Katrina, and have her to introduce herself, if she would, for a moment.
Hi, so much easier. Hi, my name is Katrina Lunan Gordon. I am the new planner here at the City of North Miami Zoning Division, and I'm very elated to work with you all as we move forward. Just a little background about myself. I was at the City of North Miami about 5 years ago, and I got my undergrad bachelor's at Ball State University in Indiana, chirp chirp, and then I got my master's at FAU. Go Owls! So I'm very happy to be here and to get to know each and every one of you. And just a little fun fact about myself, I actually have 13 brothers and sisters.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Good mom.
So that's it for me, Ms. Chair. Thank you. No other announcements or change to the agenda.
Okay, we do have new board members?
We do have new board members.
Okay.
We have Michael Eaton, Evan Shields, and we have Patricia Longchamp.
Okay.
Maybe they can introduce themselves.
Welcome. We need you badly. Okay. So with that being said, we'll just explain to the public, wherever they are, the process for today. or the Board of Adjustment?
Okay, that would be my announcement.
That would be your job.
Okay, thank you. The North Miami City Council has adopted by resolution virtual meeting procedures for the conduct of public hearings and quasi-judicial proceedings during the coronavirus pandemic and other public emergencies. They provide, and as stated in the public notice for this meeting, members of the public are invited to attend the virtual public hearing and provide oral or written comments on the matter. Comments, which must include your full name and address, may be provided in advance of the hearing via telephone at 305-895-9803 or by sending an email to publiccomment@northmiamifl.gov. Comments received by today at 10 a.m. will be read into the record during the hearing. Comments received after the deadline will become part of the record, but will not be read during the hearing. The procedure for each quasi-judicial item is also governed by Section 3-303 of Chapter 29 of the city's land development regulations. After reading the title of the item, board or commission members will disclose any ex parte communications or investigations. Staff and the applicant's representatives will be sworn. Staff will make a presentation, then the applicant or his or her representative will make a presentation, including witnesses, if any. The board, commission, or staff may ask questions of the applicant or witnesses. Staff will then read public comments submitted by the deadline previously noticed and stated and announce the opportunity for persons viewing the meeting to make live comments to the board or commission. Persons raising their hands using the GoToMeeting software or by posting a comment in the chat feature that they want to speak within 1 minute following the announcement of the opening of the public hearing will be called upon by the meeting chair. Each person will be sworn and be given 2 minutes to state their name and address and make their comments. Cross-examination is allowed by staff, the applicant, and the board or commission. Then rebuttal by the applicant. The public hearing will then be closed and the board or commission will then deliberate the matter and reach a decision, which may include approval, approval with conditions, denial, or continuance. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that being said, anyone who wishing to speak on any item today must be administered or must take the oath. So our attorney will go ahead and administer the oath.
Actually, Ms. Monestein will do that. So all persons who will be speaking to the board, including staff, should raise your right hand and repeat after Ms. Monestein.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any communication? Well, I'm sorry. Let's first go ahead and approve the minutes from January 15th. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Yes, so move.
Okay, moved by, I think it's Mr. McDermott.
Yes.
And who seconded?
It was Mr. Shields.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Any communications, board?
Madam Chair, do you want to have the new board members introduce themselves?
I think so. That would be nice. Thank you. Who'd like to start?
Well, my name is Patricia Longchamp-Yoserin. I've been a resident of the city of North Miami for quite a while. I've even worked here in the city and left and started my own business. I've since then closed the business and returned to the city and working on another project. And that's it.
Well, we're glad to have you back, not just in the city, but on the board. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Eaton, Mr. Shields.
My name is Mike Eaton, and I was nominated to the board by Carol Keys. I'm a new transplant to North Miami. I've only been here about 4 years. I previously had a consumer products company that I recently sold, and in the interim, I've gotten my real estate license, and we're flipping houses and all that type of stuff. So I'm very interested in being part of this, and it's a big honor, and look forward to working with everybody.
Okay, welcome. Mr. Shield?
I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Evan Shields. I'm a resident of the Arch Creek neighborhood, North Miami. I'm off of 135th and Biscayne. I was recommended by Councilman Scott Galvin. I work in the daytime as a commercial real estate investment professional here in Miami, albeit with nothing before the city of North Miami in any way, shape, or form. And I'm a former yet forever teacher and K through 12 former educator. And it's such a pleasure to be here and to serve.
Wonderful. Welcome. And North Miami is great for real estate these days. All right. We'll move ahead. Any communications that board members or any change to the agenda? No?
No, ma'am. No change to the agenda from staff.
Okay, I'm flipping between the old package and the new one. With that being said, we don't have any continued petitions. We'll start with our new ones, which is V-02-20, variance to allow an ADA ramp within the required front setback of 20 feet from M1 Industrial District. That's 1840 Northeast 144th Street. The applicant is present, I'm assuming.
Good afternoon, board and citizens.
The applicant is present.
Thank you.
As the chairperson stated, this is an application for a variance to deviate from the land development regulations in regards to allow for an encroachment into the front setback by 13 feet, more precisely 12 feet, 0.97 feet, where 20 feet is required. The applicant is seeking 7 feet, 0.03 feet. And a side setback where 15 feet is required. The applicant is seeking a 5 feet setback, which is a deviation of 10 feet. Next page. As was stated by the chair, this will take place at the location of 1840 Northeast 144th Street here in Miami, North Miami. The parcel is approximately 24,500 square feet, and it is a renovation of an existing building. As you can see, this is the neighborhood characteristics, which is a depiction of what surrounds the parcel. As you can see, this is zoned M1, which is industrial, and it's surrounded by industrial uses and zone industrial. This is a picture of it from the front. You just see in the back. And a site plan as it is. And you have the proposed site plan, which depicts the ADA ramp at the front of the property. The proposed ramp will, as stated earlier, be an encroachment. We have 18 feet there. That's a typo. It should be 12 feet, 0.97 encroachment into the required setback for the front. And as stated, it would be a 10 feet deviation from the side where 15 feet is required. Of course, the introduction of this ramp is to allow for ADA access, which is to comply with the American Disability Act that was passed in 1991 under the Clinton administration. And in compliance with this, the applicant is seeking this deviation in the code to allow for free and consistent access to the public to serve them. With that, staff is recommending approval of the requested variance pursuant to Article 4, Division 2, Section 203, 4-203, for a minimum standard of the development of the land development regulations to allow for American Disability Act compliant ramp to encroach within the required front north setback that is 20 feet and side east setback that is 15 feet within the M1 Industrial Zone District to have a setback at front of 7 feet, 0.3 inches, 0.3 inches, feet, and a side setback of 5 feet. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. Yes?
So just as a matter of procedure, I would like to make sure we comply with the disclosure requirement that if any board members have had any contact with the applicant or citizens on this application, they should make a disclosure now.
Yes, and I think that's what I asked at the beginning, but I wasn't clear what I asked about communications. If any of the board members had had communications with anyone with any of the items that's on the table today.
No, I think it's better to do it after each resolution is announced, or after each title. Okay. So if nobody has announced, then we should just move on. Thank you.
Okay. Would the applicant like to say something, present their case?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, board, staff, and our councils. Yes, I would like to say that it is a hardship for us, as the fire department has requested that we move the ramp 10 feet away from the building because of life safety issues. So that's where we now are encroaching. And I'd like to also offer that we are improving the building incredibly for the area. It's going to have landscape in the front, buffering the ramp as well. So it is necessary because of the accessibility code requirements. But we've made it so that the building looks nice as well from the street, as you can see in that.
Ma'am, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Matilda Reyes. I am with the Village of Bal Harbor. Our address is 655 96th Street, Bal Harbor, Florida, 33154.
Thank you.
If I can ask Ms. Reyes for a clarification, because I don't know that it was entirely clear from the agenda. This is a project by the Village of Bal Harbor to set up an operations center in North Miami. So it is a municipal project, right?
Correct. It is a municipal project. It's going to be part of our EOC, Emergency Operations Center. We're relocating. We bought this facility to relocate our operations and the EOC Center, so that we now have, we're on the mainland. And, again, we've partnered with our PD department has agreements, joint agreements with your PD city of, we always have that collaboration with them. We'll be there now present at the facility.
Thank you.
All right. Any board discussion? Now is your chance. You have questions? Raise your hand.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. McDermott.
I would like to move approval of the item.
Okay. Item has been moved by Mr. McDermott. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Eaton. Any other discussion? With none? Okay. Let's vote. Roll call, please.
Chair Rosalind Philippe, how do you vote on the item?
Yes.
Michael McDermott,
Yes.
Romana Joseph,
Yes.
Evan Shields,
Yes.
Michael Eaton,
Yes.
Patricia Longchamp de Soren.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad the item passed. You know, this is our first real meeting online, and I'm sorry, I'm learning as well. But Mr. Attorney, I know we didn't open for public hearing. It might be after the fact, but I don't even know if we have public. How do I tell?
Well, I don't know either, but why don't we just ask if there's any members of the public who want to speak on this item?
Okay. Any members of the public that's on the call who would like to speak on the item?
For the record, no comments were received prior to this.
Great. I'll remember for the next one.
Thank you.
Ms. Reyes, you've been approved. Congratulations, and we welcome you to our beautiful city.
Thank you. Lovely. You guys have been great, and I really thank you for your support. Thank you.
All right. Okay, next item, which is V-03-20, special exception to allow a childcare center within a C1 commercial district, and the address is 13381 Memorial Highway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As stated, this is a special exception to allow for a child care center of 6+ students. It is called Bright Future Prescribed Pediatric Extended Care, PPEC, the acronym Center. As stated, this is going to be located at 13381 Memorial Highway in the commercial C1 zoning district. The applicant is seeking to establish a child care center, as you can see, by that location on Memorial Highway within an existing mixed-use building, which contains residential uses on the top floor and commercial uses on the ground floor. The building is approximately 56,976 square feet. The neighborhood characteristic, as you can see, based on the map, to the east of it, you have commercial, and to the west of it, you have public use. And it will be a proposed school is designated to go into that green. And to the south, you have commercial, and to you have commercial that immediately abuts the property. This is a view of the property looking from the northwest corner of the property. This is from the side, and from the north side of the property. You see it's on the south side of the property. This is the existing site plan of the building and location. This is a floor plan for the property, that leasing area, which is approximately 5,300 square feet, which will become the school and office use. Says you have depicted here the proposed location, which is on the north side of the property. So when you were reviewing this use, it comes in, and of course it's introducing a new use, and you have the parking requirements that are existing for the current uses and this. So if you can look at the calculation, you have some specific use for the child care, which is approximately 1 parking space for every 200 square feet. Out of the 5,000 usable area, you're looking at 25 parking spaces are required. You have the existing retail uses, which have 300 square feet 1 parking space for every 300 square feet of floor area, which gives you 27 parking spaces required. and you have a restaurant existing there, which has 1 parking space for every 150 square feet of gross floor area, which requires 7 parking spaces. And you have a residential use, which you have 1 parking space, 1.5 parking space required for each unit, and a 5% parking for guests, which gives you a total of 32 parking spaces. So totally you needed 91 parking spaces based on the new use that's been introduced. And we have 84 existing parking spaces. So on the wrong numbers, we have a deficit. So we do have, what we have is called a shared parking. Shared parking allows for one to allocate parking spaces based on perceived demand based on uses. So the most applicable use that we have that you could compare it with would be the residential use. So based on our methodology that we have prescribed in the land development regulations, for the times of operation that the applicant is planning to work is from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., we have designated that the residential use would only be occupying 60% of their parking area. So as you recall, residential use requires 32 parking spaces. So at 60%, you're looking at approximately 40% being 13 parking spaces. So you would have, during the time of operation for the center, 13 available parking spaces that they can use. As you understand, we have 7 parking spaces that we were in deficit of, which was caused by the new use coming in. So we will have ample parking to allow for them to utilize that shared area. When you have 13, they only needed 7 more. So in actuality, based on the methodology, you had a surplus of 6 parking spaces that will still be available during the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, which is the days of time in their operation for this child center. So based on that they were able to meet the parking based on the shared parking, that it is an allowed use for the area that we believe will be contributing to the area and would not cause any adverse impact to the area. As many of you are aware of the Memorial Highway area and 135th, that you have ample egress and ingress. It can be busy at times, but it's for the property they have easy egress and ingress out and onto the property. That we are recommending approval of this center with the 6 students or more. They're looking at projecting approximately about 40 some students, ultimately starting off with 5 at this time of the opening of the operation. And we also requested that the applicant have 2 conditions based on our approval. One is the applicant, by way of marking signs or similar identifiers, the drop-off and pickup zone for the child care center, and that any change in the use occurring within the site that would cause an increase in peak parking demand or a finding of any related change in conditions by the city, that the applicant will be required to obtain an administrative site plan approval for the change of use, so we can assess the impact of the new use being introduced into the center. With that, we'll recommend approval, and I'm available for any questions that the staff or public may have.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. And the applicant is present. They can go ahead if they have anything to add.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Joviel Gonzalez, address is 1731 Southwest 74 Avenue Road. First off, I would like to thank Mr. Cook and his staff, who have been extremely helpful throughout this entire process. Also, to add on in reference to the parking spaces, I understand I have to say, Mr. Cook, you're very good at what you do. It's a very complex thing to break it down. But also to keep in mind, I'm sure if all of you are aware, the type of businesses are prescribed pediatric extended care facility. So not even most of, it's 100% of the kids that are going to be at our facility are technologically disabled individuals. So they will be basically dropped off at our facility. According to the map that Mr. Cook showed everyone, there's going to be a drop-off zone. So it's for kids. They're going to be dropped off. There's not going to be any parking per se for any kids. Mainly the parking that we're going to be required to have is going to be mainly for the staff, which is going to be comprised of a nursing staff and an administrator. And with that being said, I'd like to thank everyone for the time and actually, being here to help us, have a chance at possibly bringing our business to the city of North Miami. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Actually, three things. I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Gonzalez was sworn previously.
Mr. Gonzalez, were you there when they administered the oath?
I wasn't sure, to be honest, and I even looked at my brother if that was for us or for the staff. That's why I did this with the hand, because I was not sure. My apologies.
Okay, so why don't we swear him in now, Marlene?
Good catch.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Second, Madam Chair, is if there are any board disclosures, I wanted to have them make any, if they have had any contact with applicants or citizens on this application.
Or even council members. Anyone has spoken to you about this item? Okay.
Okay.
You
So
like
third,
to answer your phone.
okay. I have Mr. Gonzalez, did you raise your hand for?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, Mr. Javier Gonzalez. It looked like he was raising.
The laptop that he's on, by the way, keeps freezing. Yeah. It's a little bit.
I have a question for Mr. Cook about the second condition. The reference
Yes,
to the, in the second condition, is that the entire property or just the property related to this applicant?
That is any new use for the site as a whole.
As a whole, right? I just
Yes.
wanted to make sure we're all on the same page on that. Okay. Okay. Next.
You got it. All right. With that being said, I'll open public hearing. Anyone for or against this item, you may speak now. Okay. No one there. Board discussion. I'll close public hearing. I'm sorry. Board discussion.
We didn't receive any comments prior to the meeting for this item.
Board discussion. Anyone? Mr. Eaton.
Yes, just a couple really quick questions, Mr. Gonzalez. Could you run us through the drop off and pickup protocol? Because I was looking at the write-up and it said that there was a bus, and also you mentioned that people were going to be dropping off and picking up, et cetera. My only concern is that there's obviously some methodology to the math about the parking, et cetera. But what I'm thinking through is for the residents that are living above, the 7 a.m. drop-offs don't seem like it's going to be a problem. The 6 p.m. pickups, though, is there going to be a plethora of cars waiting? And like what I'm trying to figure out is when these people come home from work at 6 p.m., is that place going to be packed with cars, or is it not going to be working that way? I'm just a little unclear on kind of how that's supposed to work.
Okay, thank you for your question, Mr. Eden. So basically, the range of times that we're going to have any patient at our facility is going to be based on the plan of care that is prescribed by a certified board pediatrician. So we say 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. is the range. We're going to sometimes have patients that show up only for half an hour or 2 hours, depending on the therapy. And then we have the other patients that are going to be there basically throughout the entire span that we're there. Now, I would even call it buses per se, more like privately owned companies that show up and drop off the patients. The other thing too is the landlord, Mr. Mawardi, is on this live stream, and the residential aspect of it, eventually the entire building is going to be a medical facility building. So that's the long interim, proposition that we have over the course of time, which is going to be obviously slow as tenants start to apply to the facility.
Got it.
But
So it isn't like everybody comes at 7, everybody leaves at 6. Okay. All right. That's fine. All right. That's all for me.
No problem.
Any other board members? I've just got a couple of questions for Mr. Gonzalez. I know this is, even though it's written as childcare, but I'm looking at it's more of a specialized service that you're providing. And the application did say 6 and plus. Now, your facility or your program would have to be licensed by DCF, correct?
We need to be licensed by ACA, Agency of for Healthcare and Administration.
So it's not really childcare.
No. Well, so that was the issue that I brought up to zoning and Mr. Cook and his staff, that depending on what municipality you're at, they'll reference the code differently. So City of Miami or City of Coral Gables might look at this as a PPEC center. The county looks at it as a childcare center. Even though it's kind of a hybrid, you're looking at it as we function as a childcare center because we're taking care of kids. We're providing, educational and developmental needs to them. And then on the other side, it's a medical use, you could say, because these are kids that have medical issues that we need to provide them, that the only way we're going to receive a patient is if they're required or they have a plan of care by their board certified pediatrician that allows them to come to our facility. It's not like if we just open up and we're a school and then we just start having kids come to our facility.
No,
So
and I'm asking because in the presentation, we talk about the fact when we're looking at parking, we're not looking at a bunch of people saying that it will be just staff that's needed. So what are the ages of the patients that you'll be?
0 months to 20 years old, basically under 21 years old.
Okay. So I got it. Even though it's called childcare, but it's more like a treatment center.
It's in medical stuff.
Okay. So at any given time, do you know how many of your patients would be on the premises?
It all depends, because when we apply to ACA, they're going to allow us to have X amount, whatever that top number is, of patients at one sitting in our facility. I don't know what that number is. Let's say 40 patients. But at the end of the day, it's transient. We're never going to have 40 patients all at once at the facility, because everybody's plan of care is going to be extremely different based on whatever the pediatrician and our nurse on staff basically work out for that patient. So
okay, and the patients don't drive themselves and they're becoming, let's say, by a bus and be dropped off. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions from our board members? I see our attorney has something to say.
Yes, sir.
I have a question as well. On page, the question's related to the drop-off.
Yes, sir.
And maybe Derek will deal with this as part of, does it go through site plan review, Derek? Page 42 of the agenda shows the drop-off, sort of, I guess it's the northwest corner of the building, at the north end of the site, but it looks like it's in the drive aisle that goes to the rear of the property.
So that site could be adjusted, Mr. Held. We placed that there because basically the entrance of the facility is going to be right adjacent to that drop off. So we figured that was the best place to have, 2 parking spaces that are designated it's 2 specifically for the little bus or the private transportation services that are going to come up and drop off the patient. And there's ADA access there. There's a little bit of a ramp to, for the kids that are going to be on wheelchairs to enter the sidewalk.
Oh, so what's noted as drop-off is really an access between the vehicles that are parked in those two spaces or vehicles that are going to be stopped in that drop-off area.
So those two spaces are basically combined, and they're going to be solely just for our facility, which that was discussed, and it was allowed by our landlord that he's going to basically allow us to keep and occupy those two spaces plus another two extra for any admin or nurse.
You're going to put signage up to...
Yes, sir.
Okay, Derek, are you following the hatched areas? I think you should pay attention to how that's actually going to operate.
So yes, so to be clear, what he has described and what we understand is that you have two existing parking spaces there right now, and he's just going to convert those into their drop-off and pick-up zone for their buses and maybe parents who may be dropping off their child or the patient. And so with that, it's not interfering to what you are speaking of, Mr. Hill, the ingress and egress of that drive out that is on the north side of the building, because those are designated parking spaces that they're using.
Okay. Well, good luck with reviewing that.
All right. Any other questions? Discussion by the board? All right. With that, do I have a motion?
So move for approval.
Moved by Mr. McDermott for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
And that's with the staff conditions.
Yes, with the staff conditions, exactly.
Okay. And who was the second? I'm sorry.
That was me, Mrs. Philippe.
Mr. Shields.
Where am I?
Evan Shields.
Okay, Evans, thank you. The little people, I have to get used to it because I need to do that with Girl Scout. Okay, with that being said, may we have a roll call, please?
For item V320, Chair Philippe, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michael McDermott, how do you vote?
Yes. Yes.
Lamana Joseph,
Yes.
Evan Shields,
Yes.
Michael Eaton,
Yes.
Patricia Longchamp Dale Farron.
Yes.
Thank you.
Was that approved unanimously?
Yes, Ms. Chair, you're on mute. You're still muted.
Why did she become mute all of a sudden?
And just to confirm, we did open that for public hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're still muted. There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm telling you, some of this thing. Okay. With that being said, Mr. Gonzalez, you've been approved, and good luck with your project. Okay, welcome to our wonderful city.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Obviously, we've been waiting for this day to occur for quite some time, and we're very excited to start to move forward. And you can rest assured that whatever the contingencies are for the parking spaces and anything that Mr. Cook and his staff ask of us, they will be followed and adhered to. And thank you very much again.
Okay. All right. Next item -04-20, special exception to allow a private school within an R2 single family district. And the address is 12128 Northwest 2nd Avenue.
Good afternoon, board. Thank you, Ms. Chair. So as it's been stated here, this is a special exception to allow for a proposed educational private school located at 12128 Northwest 2nd Avenue in the R2 Zone Single Family District. As you can see on there, you have a depiction of the location. That is to the east, you have Northwest 2nd Avenue, and it's situated between 121st and 122nd Street. The lot composed of several individual parcels, which is approximately 25,450 square feet. The applicant is seeking to have a private school for K through 5. The neighborhood characteristic is that you have all around it zoned R2, which is single family residential use. For the proposed use in the R2, as per this application, is through the special exception process. The views you have from Northwest 122nd Street, and the view from Northwest 2nd Avenue, and the view again from Northwest 2nd Avenue, and we have the survey/site plan of the property. As you can see, to the north, you have Northwest 122nd Street. To the south, you have Northwest 121st Street. And to your west, you have, to your east, you have Northwest 2nd Avenue. So you have several locations for ingress and egress in and off of the property. There you have a floor plan for the proposed school. So when we're doing the review of an analysis of the property, what do we have? Things you're thinking about? You're thinking about parking. You're thinking about what we have discussed in the previous application, drop off and pickup area. And you're looking at the playground area for these students. Do they have enough playground area? So doing our analysis, this is what you have. For kindergarten, you're required 45 square feet per student have. And for the elementary, for the first 30 students, you have to have 500 square feet. And for the rest of the students, beyond 30 students, you have to have 300 square feet per student. So with that calculation, you had to have a playground area of approximately 16,700 and some odd square feet of playground area, and they are proposed in 4,300 square feet. So what has the applicant proposed to address that area? They are going to limit the number of students that can have recreational time to 10 at a time, which would be one of our conditions. They also, as you look at, as I stated earlier, you have plenty of ingress and egress. They're planning to take that ingress off of 122nd Street, come in off of 120.
Here, Mary, can I help you? Yes, what can I help you with?
Mike, you're not mute.
Yes, no.
So they were taking ingress primarily off of 122nd Street, dropping the students off in exiting off of Northwest 2nd Avenue out of the property, and with a drop-off area. And they will have staff who will be coordinating the drop-off and pick-up area, and I allow for the applicant to go into the specifics on how they will orchestrate that activity. With that, the staff is recommending approval of the application with several conditions. One of the conditions is that they need to either unify the property or do a covenant in lieu of a unity of title to combine the lots. And why it is that there's certain criteria you need to meet when you have technically what we consider off-site parking, because when you have different parcels that you saw delineated in the site plan, that you have to do a parking agreement and all that. To avoid that, the applicant would need to either unify through a unity of title or do a covenant in lieu to combine the lots. Also, we're saying the applicant proposed before and after to care, tutoring, and extracurricular activities proposed will remain as an auxiliary use, not as a primary use of the school. The applicant shall provide 10 bicycle parking spaces. The applicant shall mark by way of directional and traffic control signage and pavement marking the one-way directional movement entering and exiting the subject property at the southeast parking lot. The playgrounds and equipment were provided shall be maintained in a safe and acceptable condition for the intent and function, and shall furthermore comply with the state requirements for educational facilities pursuant to Section 5, 2D. And as stated, the applicant shall be restricted to a maximum of 10 students in the recreational area at any time. Thank you.
You done, Mr. Cook?
I am, ma'am. Thank you.
I just have maybe two questions before I ask the applicant to speak on it. Is this the old Challenger site? Challenger School?
Not that was presented to me. The applicant?
No, what I mean,
believe it is, Rosalind.
Is it the old Challenger? There used to be a school there?
Yes, I believe it's the old Challenger School.
Okay. And then, Mr. Cook, you stated for the playground, which is 45 per student, and I just wanted to rectify, it's really 45 per student for half of.
Yes, that's correct, ma'am. Yes, I'm sorry, I maybe missed. I felt that I said that, but I missed it. Maybe it wasn't clear.
All right. With that being said, the applicant will open if they'll make their presentation. Anything else they would like to add? Name and address, please.
Madam Chair, I'd like to have the board members state disclosures if there are any. Thank you. No problem. Thank you. Being none, we can move on to the applicant presentation.
I'm sorry. Disclosure, anyone?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, Ms. Shaw, please state your name, full name, and your address for the record.
My full name is Ashley Shaw. The address is 12128 Northwest 2nd Avenue, North Miami, Florida, 33168.
Ms. Shaw, were you sworn in earlier?
Yes, I was.
Thank you.
As far as the parking, I know Mr. Cook wanted me to elaborate on that. The parents will be required to park and exit their vehicle to both pick up and drop off the children, as required by the licensing agency, since they're required to sign them in and out. During the peak times, we'll assist in speeding up the process by monitoring the pickup and drop-off process. And it will be located at the north end of the building, and which has a total of 21 parking spaces. On the the east side of the building, there's an additional 5 parking spaces.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. I'll open public hearing. Anyone for or against this particular item? Now is your opportunity to speak.
I'm sorry. I do have a question, if I may.
Identify yourself, please, because
This is Ashley Shaw. Still. Yes, I wanted, when Mr. Cook was talking about combining the lots, could you all elaborate on that a little more? Is he talking about as far as expanding the playground space to meet the 5,000 square feet? Or was it 6,000?
No, ma'am. Right now you have several individual lots that make up your site. And those lots need to either be unified through a unity of title, you can unify them through a covenant in lieu, or you could replat. And what needs to happen to why I'm saying you need to unify, because you have what we consider off-site parking, because they are not one cohesive single parcel, then you jump into having to have off-site parking agreements, recordation of the parking agreement, things to that effect, if you want to maintain this individual lots as they are now. So that's why we have a condition to avoid that scenario, if you so choose to do so, is to go through the unity of title or a covenant in lieu to unify those lots into one by instrument. And that's just really a recordation at the county. Ms. Kelly, you want to go further on that?
Fair.
Are you clear with what the request is, ma'am?
Somewhat. Do you mean the east parking and the north parking has to be combined as one? Because right now there's
go back to the
median in between them. Are you saying that the median needs to be removed?
Ms. Shaw, let me just try to clarify for you a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because the properties in your lot seem to be like individuals. Now, will you be leasing this property or have you purchased? Because I believe they're being leased. So this is something that could be taken care of, Mr. Cook. I'm not sure. I don't want to jump on it because I know that the Orthodox Greek church owns this property. So it might be something that she needs to resolve with them through her lease, that they're all combined as one.
Yeah, Ms. Shaw, these are not physical changes that we're talking about to your property. This is just a legal document to combine the properties as a matter of law for so that.
Oh, you mean as far as on the website, the property website? Is that because the lots are separate?
No. The underlying owner has to go through a process called unity of title, which combines all of the individual parcels of the land itself underneath the school.
As one, as if it is one piece of property so that you are at liberty to use it all.
Yes, I understand. Because when I go on the property, it's listed as different parcels. That's what I was asking.
Yes, exactly, ma'am. Exactly. So to the point that Madam Chair brought up, the applicant, the owner, may desire to do this or they may not desire to do this. That's just a condition that we have imposed. If they do not desire to unify the lots, which may be for whatever reason they may have as the owner of the property, then the other option is that we would need to do a parking agreements for what was technically considered off-site parking to serve your use.
Okay.
If I may offer an interjection here, just may I have permission to speak?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Father Frank Marangos. I am the pastor of the Annunciation Church across the street. And we will do whatever is necessary to allow her to lease the property and hold the school. It's news to me that it's not under a unity of title because, as was mentioned, a school was being run there for many, many years prior to them vacating, and then we redid the building itself, renovated the building, and then put it back up for lease. So we're just duplicating what was there prior to Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, Father. I'm glad you're on the call.
If you have any other questions, I'm here.
Okay. So it's clear, Ms. Shaw, right?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
I don't know who they're using this time. Okay. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and again open public hearing. Anyone else who'd like to speak on the item? Okay, I close public hearing. Board discussion.
Madam Chair, we didn't receive any comments prior to the meeting for this.
I'm sorry, Ms. Monteith?
We haven't received any comments prior to the meeting for this item. Just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you. All right. Board discussion? Okay. Would someone like to make, Mr. Shields, go ahead.
I believe Mr. Eden raised his hand first.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. All right, Mr. Eden.
I'm just curious, just because I'm a new board member, in an instance like this, wouldn't the owner of the lot have to file for the use versus the lessee of the lot?
Oh, you mean in terms of why is Ms. Shaw in front of us rather than the owner?
If she's leasing the lot, wouldn't the owner need to apply for the use of the lot?
It's the person who wants to open up the business. They're the one who comes in front of us.
All right, good to know.
So if I may interject, Madam Chair, to direct Mr. Eaton. So what happens in the application process, the leasee can submit, but as part of the application process, there is a section where the actual owner has to sign and notarize that confirms that they are aware of the use will be taking place.
Got it. Okay. One other quick question. Clearly there was a previous school on this. Do we know if there were any kind of complaints about the use of the property for that school? Was it a problem for the neighborhood or anything like that? We're aware of anything like that of the sort?
So as part of the application process, to speak to your question, there is a 500-foot radius notification that is sent out to make them aware that this use is going to be there. So give them opportunity if they had any concerns as it related to the previous use, that they probably would have made us aware that, hey, I'm not really happy about a new school coming. But to directly speak to your question, we didn't receive any feedback from anyone.
Got it. Okay. I'm good.
Mr. Shields.
I also have a clarifying question for Mr. Cook, and then I have a operational question for Ms. Shaw, as it is concerning a recommendation that Mr. Cook has made for the property. So Mr. Cook, my quick question to you, clarifying question. My understanding is that this particular site was previously used as a school, and that there are currently school improvements already on the 3 parcels that will be combined under one title. Has this variance already gone before this group or some other similar body with the city previously?
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Shields. And how it works. Let's say if they did go through the process of having to have a special exception, as was stated, this was in use for a long time. So when at the genesis, it may not have required to have any special exception to be there. But let's say if it did, and let's say then once they stopped that use, and that use would have not been occupied for 180 days, then that approval dies. And you need to do a new approval for the use to take place.
Understood. Thank you. The last question I have is for Ms. Shaw. I understand that a recommendation here is that the playground area has no more than 10 students. I believe it may be because of a minimum square footage requirement. My question to you is, how many students do you plan to enroll in this school? And a follow-on to that, how exactly would you plan to have no more than 10 students at the playground at any one time? Given that, give or take, your average elementary school size is class size between 15 and 18 students.
We are estimating between 40 and 45 students. Once we do DCF licensing, they will give us a definite number of how many we can have at the site. As far as playground time, we do have a playground schedule, so not all 40 to 45 kids will be on the playground together. The class sizes will be between 8 and 10 children, so there'll be no more than that amount of kids on the playground at a time.
Okay, great. Thank you all for your answers. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And trust me, when DCF gets involved, they provide the guidance.
Definitely.
Okay. With that being said, any other questions, or can we have a roll call? I'm sorry. Can we have a motion?
So move.
Moved by Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do I have a second?
I second Anna Joseph.
All right, seconded by Ms. Joseph. Roll call, please.
And that would be with the conditions that stated.
Yes, with the conditions, yes.
Plus the additional condition that Mr. Cook added.
Right.
Chair Rosalind Philippe, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michael McDermott.
Yes.
Lumana Joseph.
Yes.
Evan Shields.
Yes.
Michael Eaton.
Yes.
Patricia Longchamp Soren.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Shaw, you've been approved by our board and with all the recommendations. So we wish you luck and welcome to our city.
Thank you all so much, and you all have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
I would also like to take this opportunity to thank you for your support. And once you get to meet Ashley, you will know that she is a great benefit to the community. Thank you again.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father. Right.
I think our last case, V-05-20, variance to allow a two-story single-family residence within the required secondary frontage, side street setback of a corner lot. That's at 2233 Keystone Boulevard. And is the applicant ready? Go ahead, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair and on board members. As stated, this application is a variance to allow for a new two-story single-family residence to encroach within the side street required setback at 2233 Keystone Boulevard within the R1 Residential Estate District. Currently, what we have on it, we have an existing residence on the site that will be demolished to allow for the new construction. The existing residence currently has a side setback of approximately 5 feet to the west, which is the area of where the applicant seeks to a deviation for the new home. So with that in mind, what you have is a lot which is approximately 11,245,000 square feet. As I stated, as you can see, this is located in the Keystone area. So all around it that you have is the R1 zone district and single family use taking place. Next, you have pictures of the existing location. As you see in the far right corner there, you see the elevation of Keystone Boulevard. That is approximately about 12 feet. You see a depiction of the proposed new residence, which is a beautiful home. If I may give that commentary. So as part of the review, we have, as I've spoken with some of the new members individually, we have 6 criteria that we look at as our gauge to whether staff would be able to recommend approval. And of those 6 criteria, we need to meet 4 of them for a positive recommendation. And those 6 criteria are as follows. 1 is special conditions and circumstances exist which are particular to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same zoning district. So when we did that, we felt that, yes, we have a condition that is not particular to everyone else. So we said yes, and particularly we're talking about, as was depicted earlier in the slides, you have the street, which is Keystone Boulevard, that is to the west of the property, that is elevated as it traverses over the waterway. And that elevation creates a differential from their ground of 12 feet. If some of the board members would recall, we had a project similar to this last year, which was on Griffin Boulevard, that is located at the corner of Griffin Boulevard and 125th Street. And they have that overpass, that house that you may be familiar with, some of you, as you travel down 125th going west towards 95. You can see the elevation of the bridge of the overpass and how it relates to that residence. And this is a similar circumstance here. So with that, you have that bridge creates a natural barrier from the right-of-way and vehicles. As a norm, when you have that situation, you have a required setback of 15 feet when you are adjacent to on a corner lot and adjacent to a right-of-way. As standard, the normal side setback for lots is 7.5 feet, which is what the applicant is seeking. If there was an interior lot, that's what they would need to meet. So what they're thinking is, with this bridge situation, a road situation at that elevation, coupled with landscaping, that deviation of 7.5 feet would not have an impact on the visual or on the encroachment into the roadway because of the circumstance. The other criteria that we have is number 2, the unusual circumstances or conditions necessitating the variance requests are present in the neighborhood and are not unique to the property. So in that context, we really couldn't say that there's anything unique here about the property. The property is, you have a minimum lot size of 9,500 square feet for that area. And as you stated earlier, you have a lot of 11,000 square feet plus here. So you have a large lot, which is pretty indicative of the Keystone area. So you don't have anything that is irregular there that would bring about a need for a deviation. 3 is that the requested variance maintains the basic intent and purpose of the subject regulations, particularly as it affects the stability and appearance of the city. So in that one, we said yes. In this context, as I had spoke to earlier, The traditional side setback for properties in the city for residential, whether it's R1 or R2, is 7.5 feet. The uniqueness of this situation is that it is a side street. And as part of the side street to give a greater buffer, the city believes that the 15 feet is needed. As I spoke of earlier, the unique nature, because the elevated roadway and the buffering that is coupled with that roadway and the planning that the applicant has there, that setback is not necessary per se here. And more to the point of the criteria, would deviating from the setback have an adverse, using my word, impact or stray from the intent of the code? And I would say no, because as a norm, 7.5 feet is the side setback in the for properties in the R1 and R2. Number 4 is the criteria is the literal interpretation of the provisions of these LDRs would deprive the applicant of the rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under terms of these LDRs. To this, we say no. It would deprive the applicant by making them have to meet that 15 feet setback from being able to construct a new residence there. So in that level alone, you say no. Number 5, the variance request is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land constructing for structure or building. Again, the deviation not allowing that wouldn't prevent the applicant from being able to build on the lot. So then again, we just have to say no to that, even though you have the circumstances that have been spoke of that are unique to the site as it relates to the road. And finally, the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of these LDRs, and such variance will not be injurious to the area involved. As I spoke earlier in number 3, the deviation in this code would not be injurious to the area. It would not have an adverse impact to the area because of the unique circumstances of the site. And as I spoke of, as a norm, 7.5 feet is the traditional side setbacks for properties. And it wouldn't be anything that would, if you were driving down the street, you would say, man, that's odd that it's not at 15 feet per se. And so it wouldn't be injurious or adverse to the community. With that said, though, because the property as presented did not meet, based on staff assessment, at least 4 of the 6 criteria, we are unable to, as staff, to recommend approval for this item and leave it in your hands for your review and for the applicant to make a determination. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Would the applicant like to speak? Name and address first.
Yes. Thank you all for having me at your hearing today. Thank you to the board. Thank you for the community planning staff to review. My name is Mario Bear. I live at 2233 Keystone Boulevard, and I have for the last 10 years. I've lived on this lot. I've lived in the community here in the city of North Miami and Keystone with my family. I've been raising my children here. And we've decided that for us, the time has come. We have an older home. We have some problems with plumbing, roofing, settlement, all the things you can have in Keystone. And the time for us has come to do this the right way. There's a very important piece that maybe wasn't apparent in what Mr. Cook outlined, and that is that I think the way it was described, it sounds like the new home would be about 7.5 feet away from the roadway. And in reality, it will be almost 20 feet away from the roadway because there is an easement, a 12-foot wide easement between the roadway and the property line. So currently, the home sits, say, 16, 17 feet away from the road, but only just over 5 feet away from the property line. That's the current home. We're talking about constructing the new home 2 feet further away from the roadway and the property line than the existing home. We're also talking about moving the driveway, which is currently in that 15-foot triangle on a roadway on a corner lot, and moving it to the opposite side of the property, which will create a much safer traffic situation in that area. So what's important to understand is that 7.5-foot setback gets added to the 12-foot easement that is between the roadway and the property. So you're literally ending up with 19.5, almost 20 feet of distance. And the other thing that's important to consider is and this is where I would say it's really special. It's different from everything else in the neighborhood. So the first point that we weren't meeting, there's no sidewalk on that side of the bridge. That's very different. Almost every street in Keystone has a sidewalk on both sides of the street. This one doesn't. So there's no way for pedestrians to walk on the side of the street that the house would encroach on the bridge on. And again, important, it's not going to be encroaching anywhere near the bridge or, as Mr. Cook was describing, the elevated roadway, because it's actually 20 feet away from that, physically located 20 feet away, because the easement adds that additional buffer. And the easement is also something that other properties in Keystone don't usually have. So again, there may be one or two others, but that's certainly, I would consider it an exception. So I think it's important maybe to look again briefly at the picture, the satellite image. I don't know if we could look at that again, because there it's a little easier to see how that all kind of would lay out and why ultimately we think that what we're really saying here is, instead of pushing it 25 feet away from the roadway, can we be 20 feet away from the roadway and have a 7.5-foot setback, which is what most other people enjoy? And then finally, there are some other lots in Keystone that don't have a bridge or an easement, and they were granted this variance. And I had some of those examples in as well. So we certainly would have more mitigating circumstances than those that were approved in the last 18 months that are on a corner lot and are now enjoying a 7.5-foot setback. That is physically 7.5 feet, not like this property, which would be almost 20 feet away.
I hear you, Mr. Baer. Thank you. But just to remind you that we take every case individually. Mr. Held?
I just want to confirm that Mr. Baer was sworn previously.
Yes, I was. I raised my hand when you swore some.
And also to ask if there's any board disclosures of contacts with people.
Yes. Mr. Held?
Yes, sir.
You have something?
Yes, I was contacted by the Keystone Homeowners Association.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm sure the subject was to discuss the application, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. That's all you need to disclose. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, with that being said, I'll open public hearing. Anyone for or against this item? This is your opportunity. Just raise your hand and, okay, Alan, I don't know last name. And then there's RRN. Okay, so we'll take Alan first.
Alan Eggert. I live in Keystone, 12467 North Bayshore Drive. I'm from Mario's home. I'm in that 500-foot mailing, and I see no issue with it. I see it as an improvement to the neighborhood. Just to the west of the bridge, there's been a new home that's been developed there, and Mario's looking to build a new home there, which will flank the bridge on both sides with two beautiful homes. I think the setback, Mario spoke of it in detail. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but the fact that we're going to be 19.5 feet away, a greater distance than we are today of the current home, I think speaks to the fact that he's trying to do the best he can and still be able to build the quality home that he wants to build on that lot. And again, you saw the images of it in the renderings. Again, it's a beautiful home. The home that's there is probably from the 50s is my best guess. And I've lived in Keystone all my life, and I don't see any reason to oppose it. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Held.
Yes. Alan, were you previously sworn?
Yes, sir, I was.
And can you state your name and address for the record?
I did when I started. Alan Eggert, 12467 North Bayshore Drive, North Miami, 33181.
Okay, and just to clarify for the board, you are listed on the application as the owner's agent, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I think we have someone else. The gentleman, please introduce yourself and your address, please.
Rodrigo Rodriguez Novas. Address is 2243 Keystone Boulevard. I am Mario's only direct neighbor in Keystone. And I personally approve and would like the committee to consider approving the variance. I think, and knowing the house and the property and seeing what he clearly described as far as the setback and the easement, I think, there is absolutely no issue, no safety, no, anything that should be, preventing the approval to make a house that will make our neighborhood a lot better for everyone and safer. As he described, the current situation with the driveway right on the corner, moving to the east will make the bridge intersection safer by itself. There is no sidewalk there. So I just think it's, what he's proposing will make things a lot better than what they are today in terms of moving the house farther. So again, my recommendation as next door neighbor and resident of Keystone for a while as well is to move forward and approve the variance.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, with that being no one else, I will close public hearing. Board discussion? I'm sorry?
I just wanted to say, for the record, we didn't receive any comments prior to the meeting for this item.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Can you hear me better now?
Uh-huh.
I wanted to state for the record that we didn't receive any comments prior to the start of the meeting for this item.
Thank you. Technology. Board discussion.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Eaton, go ahead.
Did someone want to say something first?
I heard Mr. McDermott. Mr. McDermott?
Yes, a question for staff. Derek?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. My concern in listening to your report is that if we allow a movement westward into the easement of the bridge, how is that going to affect I know there's been some discussion of widening the bridges in Keystone. How is that going to impact the widening, any possible future widening of the bridge?
So, Mr. Medeme, to speak to what the applicant stated about their 12-foot easement there.
Yes.
So that 12-foot easement, why it's not discussed in our staff report, because it's not delineated on the survey as an easement there, clearly stating the easement there. And I would say also, if I may give a little further commentary, that could contribute as a unique circumstance to his situation. And to specific to your question, the easement is existing. And as the applicant stated, right now, the current resident is 5 feet from the property line, which if you include the easement, you're looking at 17 feet from the bridge or from Keystone Boulevard.
Right.
With the variance that they are requesting, and if there is an easement as he stated there, then you would have it become it would be a 7.5 foot setback from the property line, which would then increase the setback from the bridge with that easement to 19 feet 5.
So actually,
it will be an increase.
So it will be.
So you still have room to expand if they needed to expand it.
Okay, so they're actually increasing. Yeah, so they're actually increasing the space between the bridge and the actual structure.
Yes, sir.
And the easement is not on the property. The easement is off the property, between the property line and the bridge, as I understand.
Right,
Yes.
I understand. I get it.
Approaching onto the easement, right?
Okay.
Correct. I think that, I'm sorry if I may, I think that is the key distinction, is that the new structure would be 2 feet further away from the roadway than the current structure, and that the total distance from the roadway is a minimum of 19 feet if you were to approve this request, which is significantly farther than a standard 15-foot setback. So as far as it encroaching on the roadway, this only moves it further away.
Okay.
We got it. Okay.
I just wanted that clarification.
Oh, okay.
Madam Chair, I said I just wanted that clarification.
I hear you, Mr. McDermott. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Eaton, you still had a question or comment?
Yeah, I wanted the same clarification about the variance and the actual distance. One other question, Alan, you're the builder on this house, I'm assuming?
For the record, no, I'm not. I'm just helping in the paperwork. I'm a state licensed general contractor in the city. I build in Keystone. I kind of know some of the ins and outs.
Yeah.
I've worked in the city for years, and I was just lending a hand. As I said, I live 3 doors down from them.
Got it.
So, for the record, no, I am not the builder.
Do we know does anybody know the typical width of a sidewalk? If they added a sidewalk on that side of the bridge or widened the bridge?
You would never add a second sidewalk to a car carry bridge. We have a sidewalk on one side of the bridge that's a 5-foot sidewalk.
Yeah.
I've lived in Keystone 46 years on both sides of the bridge, and you'll never see more than one person walk across that bridge at any one given time.
So, Mr. Eaton, to answer your question, if Public Works was to introduce a sidewalk, the standard width is 5 feet. In some areas, like on major thoroughfares, we seek 10 feet.
Right. And does anybody have any insight on the plans to widen the bridge at all and what that might look like and how much wider they want to make it and why?
I know the question, but I'd like to stick to what we are discussing right now. Because whatever decision we make, it has to be based on what's presented to us and not what can possibly come down the road in the area.
I think not considering what this could potentially impact, I feel like you should probably consider, it's like,
I don't know.
Right up to the property line of the bridge, probably something that we should consider if that information is available.
Go ahead, Mr. Helbert. You can help us out here.
In relation to the application, it looks like they're moving the building away from the bridge. So you would be facilitating the possibility of a sidewalk rather than impairing it.
Right. They're actually moving it about 2.5 feet, I believe. But I just wanted to make sure that clarification was on record.
May I, excuse me, Madam Mayor, may I interject for a moment? Madam Chair, forgive me. So I think it's also important, if I may, Mr. Eaton, to your question. I said the applicant did nothing. They are 5 feet from their property line right now. So even if we were to expand it, they would have to take that in consideration.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. All right. No other questions? All right. May I have a motion, please?
So move. I'm sorry. To approve.
Thank you, Mr. McDermott. Move to approve by Mr. McDermott. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by...
Madam Chair, point of parliamentary inquiry here.
Sure.
Is Mr. McDermott's motion to approve of the community planning staff's recommendation of denying this particular variance, or is it a motion to approve of this variance?
To approve the variance, Michael.
Right.
Thank you.
Or Mr. Shields, it was.
Mr. Shields, yes. Thank you. To approve the project. Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Shields, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Roll call, please.
Chair Philippe?
Yes.
How do you vote? Michael McDermott, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lamana Joseph, how do you vote?
You're muted.
I'll record her vote afterwards if we can. Evan Shields, how do you vote?
Yes, I vote in favor of the variance.
Michael Easton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Patricia Longchamp Soren, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board member Joseph, can I have your vote for?
Yes.
Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bear, your item has been approved by the board, and it looks like a very beautiful project, and we look forward to seeing it and making wonderful changes in our city. Thank you.
You mean hitting it with the new tax bill? Sorry, I had to say it.
So true. Thank you,
for carefully considering this request. I really do appreciate the careful consideration by the board.
I think
Thank you,
everybody
Mario.
two-story these days.
Yeah, good luck.
When I say one thing, I just wanted to thank Derek for all his effort that he puts into these reports that he puts together. He puts so much time into them to make it all easy for all of us to see and interpret what he's doing. Been involved in the city for a long time, and Derek's add to the amount of time that he puts into this stuff, whether good or bad for me, is not important. Just the way he puts it together and the package, the way it's formulated for us to review and see how it really plays out. So, Derek, I want to thank you personally. Thank you for all your time.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. McDermott, you had something to say?
Yeah, I also wanted to comment that it's not very often we know how much time and effort that Derek puts into all of the reports that he has for the Board of Adjustment, and we appreciate his work, and we really do acknowledge him and his expertise, and we very, very rarely disagree with him. And usually if he comes up with a denial, it's usually something that we usually back because of the fact that we know the work that he has put into this. But every now and again, projects come along, and I think this is going to be a beautiful addition to the property in Keystone. So just wanted to say that, Derek, we do appreciate your work very much.
Yes, Mr.
Thank you.
Give him a hand.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to express my appreciation as well, and also to say that maybe I could take partial responsibility for not disclosing the easement in a way that was maybe easier to understand. So thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you. And thank you to all our new board members. I am so happy that we're able to meet and move on with in deciding on people's cases, because I know they put a lot of work and they're waiting to move on with their projects. And when we can't meet, we can't help them. So I'm glad to have you guys and hope that, you'll continue to want to be with us. And we continue this work. I've been at this a long time. So, okay. Any new business? No? Old business? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. McDermott. Second? Oh, you want to stay here?
I second.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Joseph. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Stay dry. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just want to let everybody know we do have a November meeting. We do have items for the November meeting.
Okay, good. And we do it online, so wherever you are, Bora Bora.
Thank you all. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, everybody.
Amy, you need me?